Welcome to In Your Element, the podcast that unlocks practical wisdom in higher education, where leadership meets real talk. I'm Brendan Hinkle, Manager of Solutions Engineering here at Element 451.
And I'm Daniela Norden, Element 451's Director of Customer Success and Engagement. Join us every other Thursday for discussions with everyday heroes using Element 451 in enrollment, marketing, and student success. We'll unlock the practical tips to help you make waves on your campus.
In Your Element is a part of the Enrollify Network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher education professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org or check out some of my personal favorites linked in the show notes below.
Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.
We have with us today a very esteemed, award-winning in multiple categories guest, Carrie Pitts-Densmore here from Johnston Community College. And I'm just so excited to talk with you. I've heard so many amazing things that you're all doing, and it seems like everything you touch turns to gold.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you. We certainly hope so. And we're very excited about the things that are going on here. Everything is great. We have a new president, as your last guest has. He's fairly new. He's been here a little bit more than a year. And some great things have happened since he came on board, including, those double-digit increases for 2 semesters in enrollment. So,
Double digits?
yeah.
I remember speaking with you earlier, and whenever we were talking, you were saying that those kind of numbers and those kind of increases led the entire community college system in North Carolina. That's true?
Yeah. For the spring, yeah, for sure. We had the highest one. And a lot of schools that use Element right now, a lot of the North Carolina community colleges are experiencing growth. And I think that just community colleges in general are experiencing some growth because it's affordable, it's accessible, it kind of levels the playing field, and we're really training our local and regional workforces. And so I think we're doing a good job, all of us together, getting rid of the stigma of community college.
I think you're right, Carrie. I think the pandemic helped a little bit with that too. I think that there's some changing demographics that are happening. You mentioned double digits. We're going to pump you up. Tell us what those numbers are. What double digits are we talking about here? And what specifically can Johnston attribute to this increase?
Yeah, so in the fall of 23, we had approximately a 10% increase in enrollment. And then in the spring, a 12% increase in enrollment. And, there actually were a number of factors that we can attribute to this growth. One of them is that we're really trying to use the centralized communications that Element is helping us do. It was very decentralized before. We're still not quite where we want to be, but centralizing that student experience really is helpful in getting them the information that they need, as well as keeping them from semester to semester, right? But I think also, we changed some processes. We just made it easier for them to get enrolled and get advised and enroll in the classes that they needed to be in. So our president came and said, let them in. And we were like, okay, cool. So we expanded classes, we hired more instructors. There were a lot of factors and really a team effort in us being able to do that. But two of the things that we started with Element were the chatbot, the Boltbot, and the request for information on our website. So with all of that information sort of going into one place, we're able to communicate with the students in a way that we were not before.
I love everything that you just said. But my first question is, does your bolt bot have a name? Because we have been seeing a trend
This is
where
the trend we want to make sure we get
this
down.
this is really the important question that I
Yeah.
have, that we need to get out of the way.
It does. Well, so we named it after our
I
mascot,
love it.
Jagger. So it's Ask Jagger. I was looking at our stats recently, and Ask Jagger has saved us approximately 7,600
Wow.
minutes in phone calls.
Carrie, that's huge. That takes such like the onus off of your team to answering those questions. What are they focusing on cultivating those RFI like students, personalized communications? Like now that Jagger has moves that are
Yeah.
that are helping out your team.
Good one.
What are how are you optimizing that?
Actually, on the admissions side, they are using it for, first of all, our supplemental application process. So, like our dual enrollment, our health sciences, and they love it. They love the application side. They said it's so easy, it's all right there, less cumbersome than what they were doing before. But you can talk directly, like specifically with dual enrollment students, you can talk directly to them in the system and you can say, hey, we don't have your transcript, but also other people can see we don't have your transcript. So if they call in, we can sort of go back and go, okay, well, we already, let you know that you didn't have your transcript or whatever. So there's a record of that information. And, I hope that we are able to utilize that a little bit more with our traditional
Mm.
students, and we're working toward that. But, I think that just the chat function alone, we're able to send out messages and then see if those messages have been answered or not answered. Um, and it's all just right there. And it doesn't have to be one person texting back and forth, which our previous platform kind of was. And
Right.
it was, we had the ability to do the two-way texting, but it was a little bit archaic. It was just, sort of like, hey, we're here. Can we answer any questions? But it wasn't really kind of real time where we could all jump in and sort of do it. And then our other notification system that we were using was a one-way mass notification. So that's how we sent emails and texts, was one
Yeah.
way.
Super effective, I imagine.
Yeah, and that's what we've seen be the biggest impact a lot of times is bringing everything under a unified system. So you have a holistic view. You can see the right hand can see what the left hand has been doing. And it's not, you know, in different pieces of technology that aren't talking to each other. You can't garner any insights from it, any analytics. And that's been the big impact for people. It's been kind of a big aha moment for them, on top of being able to leverage AI to now not only have to have someone available at the times that they're in the office to make sure that conversations are happening and students are getting and making sure they felt seen, but also just having a system that takes the chore work out of what you do on a day-to-day basis. Those are all big, big, big ads.
Well, we were sending out these mass notifications. We had no idea who was opening that text and who was reading that email. And they didn't look that nice either, And so now we have these full on campaigns where we can target the specific audience. We don't have to do it to the masses anymore. And which, I mean, we did segment those messages somewhat, but it was really kind of mass notification when we can really dig in now with Element and look at, okay, this message only applies to graduates, right? Like, so that's who we're going to send it to. And then we can see how many graduates opened up that email.
Not only do you have the power to communicate and personalize communication to them, but you get to see how effective it's being for each of those individual groups. And it's because it's all being done within one system.
Yeah, Carrie, have you seen any particular group that surprised you in some of these stats? You mentioned graduates, or was that 12 and 10% enrollment over those quarters overall enrollment, or were there some populations that were higher than others that surprised you?
Some of the things that are really insightful to us are the events they're all being marketed the same way, right? But which ones are they coming to? What are they interested in? What times are they being held? And where we're having attendance. What were they not getting the message on? So I think, being able to see some of those patterns about like things that we were doing that, hey, maybe that's not the right thing to do, but we didn't have any feedback on it, right? Now we've got that. I want to tell you guys about this. And Brendan, I knew I was going to have this information when we were recorded, but when we talked earlier, we didn't. So we had an open house last Saturday, and it was actually the first one that we had done in several years because of the pandemic. And we had a bunch of other things going on, and so we were like, okay, it's time to do this and let's get it together. So we decided that we would have registration through Element, through our events page. And registration isn't required, but it's encouraged to help you skip the line when you get there, right? You can just check in and get your bag and start going. We had 450 people who checked in, and it was pouring rain that day.
Whoa, that's a that's a an open house crusher. If you've
Oh
got
my
bad weather,
gosh.
that's everybody's worst nightmare. 400, that's amazing.
And so we would have never had this information on these people before or been able to connect with them. So they've gotten an event reminder. We made a page for the event that's got a map on it and all the activities. They get a thank you. They get a, hey, do you want more
Hmm.
information now? We actually created pages for every
Oh,
single
that's
department.
awesome.
40, 40 plus
That's awesome.
departments, so that we can start aggregating their information. They can use the page after open house. But if someone is interested in a program, then we can put that information into Element. But it was, of course, we did a lot of marketing, right? I mean, that just wasn't because we popped it on Element, but being able to have that information and seeing who came and not, being able to communicate with them now and just keep the connection is
Yeah, now you've
amazing.
got those 400 leads, those 400 prospective students who are in your system, regardless of whether or not they're applying this year, which we hope that they are. They're in your funnel, they're in your communication, cycle now, and you can target them based on, hey, we know you registered for this event. Do you want to come back the following year, or are you interested in this program, and direct them to one of those pages. It's so key to really going back to what you said at the beginning and centralizing your process. We love a process change, and centralizing that process. I know one of the things you mentioned too, speaking of centralization, is bringing on a CRM manager. Can you talk a little bit about that role, how that came about, what that person is doing?
Yeah, so I have a little bit of a sales background. I'm a former television news producer.
Award winning. Award winning. You have to throw that in front of there. I'll make sure I got you looked out.
Thank you. I did have a wonderful television news career, but at some point everybody in news gets burnt out or retires or whatever. And most of them come to the PR side of the business. But I just didn't know what I wanted to do with myself. And so I decided to go do real estate full time for a few years. And it was great. I did very well and it was wonderful. I learned a lot about lead generation and sales and marketing to a funnel, right? So that's where my two worlds kind of come together here with Element. So, I was the captain of what we were doing here, and I knew that this all had to sort of meld together or it's not going to work. And we have to be able to talk to the student from the time they ask a question to the time they graduate. And how are we going to
Mm.
do that really? Right. And so I started thinking about it, and I was like, I really want someone to manage. We already had some strategic enrollment communications that we did, but I want to make them more robust, and I want to be able to sort of manage this funnel. And I wear a lot of hats. And so I knew that I couldn't concentrate on that every single day. And so I was like, okay, I need somebody that has a sales background, not necessarily higher education background, but someone who has sales, because you can teach different fields to people. But I think something that you can't teach is customer. Well, I'm not, maybe you can teach it, but the innate ability to take a customer from one place and close
Yep.
them, as we used to say in the
Yep.
business, is really a unique
Absolutely.
ability. So I put it in my job description that, sales background would be fine. And I got someone who has both of those things and is doing an amazing job about 4 months into the process. Very much understands Element. You guys will meet her at the engagement.
Yes.
Excellent.
But
Maybe we'll interview her in a podcast while we're there. Who knows?
you totally should, because she jumped right in.
Yeah.
Because she understood CRMs already, it was easy to understand
Yeah.
this and what we were trying to accomplish. And it's, we don't want to often think about students as consumers because they mean so
Right.
much to us, right? And they do. But they are making one of the biggest decisions of their lives. You don't buy a house or a car without someone helping you
Nope.
through it. And you certainly don't make a decision about going to
Yep.
college, especially if your parents didn't go to college and you have no idea what to
Yep.
do. So it's a really important experience and purchase
Yep.
for
I
them.
would say every time. So prior to being at Element, I was in higher ed on the school side, and I was a director of financial aid. And whenever I was looking for people to hire, I did not look for financial aid experience. In fact, I would always say probably not the best to have it, because different schools approach it different ways. I looked for customer relationship management. So being able to have good customer service. Again, you don't want to look at students as customers, I guess, but that's exactly what they are. And you want to make sure that you're giving them the best experience. So much, especially in financial aid, I think the viewpoint was didn't get good service from financial aid. It was very much not a good experience. And that's not what I wanted to offer in the student experience. And I just had the most amazing team, because I didn't bring in, I don't think I hired anyone from that had financial aid experience. Everyone was from the service industry pretty much. And it was um very good decision. You just look at the core functionalities of a role and what makes someone successful in it apart from the higher ed portion, and that's what you hire based off. So exactly what you did, and I think you're seeing the fruits of that. So it's a good approach.
And we're not even where we want to be with Element and its capacity, but that's what we're working toward. And I think we can get there. And we also have a really good infrastructure. We have a student success center that was designed to be sort of a one-stop shop for
Awesome.
students. So you can go there and get admissions help, and you can get financial aid help. And what we're really working toward is tying all that into our CRM so that we're giving the same message. We're following up with the same people. We know who we talked to when they came into the center, and that's what we're building
Oh,
on.
you are going to love some of
But
the things that are coming on the horizon from Element that are going to help facilitate that. Danielle, I'm speaking specifically to
I
the
know.
assistant stuff that we talked about that's coming out like real soon. You're
Yeah.
going to love that.
And I'm really sad that you keep teasing
Yeah, I
me
mean, that's
about
the
it.
point, like we want to make sure that we get you excited, and but everything you're describing is exactly what we want our partners to be able to do in such an easier fashion than it's been done before, because not only is that benefit the student and their experience, but it, again, it alleviates what you all are doing and the effort that it takes to get what you dreamed of, what you've imagined this process and possibility to be. So
Yeah, I think it's so smart, Carrie. Like you're talking about these touch points and these data collection points along the way. Similar how we don't like to think of higher ed as a business or students as consumers. I don't think we also like to talk about, hey, we are collecting data on them, but
yep.
it makes your communications stronger and it makes that personalization stronger and it makes hitting that message at the right time at the right place, and somebody like your CRM manager who understands that full life cycle, it makes a big difference, what you're collecting, when you're collecting it, and being able to use that to really cultivate and nurture those students to get those enrollment numbers up. So we love hearing it, and yes, we may have some things in the work that will make your CRM manager's life a little bit easier, but we'll talk about some of that. I was to say, Brendan, I don't know how much we're allowed to say.
Yeah, I should probably. That's why I just stuck with what it's called, and then I will just
Yeah,
like leave it at that. So
yeah,
you'll like it a lot. It's going to help accomplish kind of that dream that you have of that one college mindset, but in a way I'm sure you probably even haven't even imagined yet. So
yeah.
it's going to be really cool.
One thing we love about Element is that you are sort of coming up with these things, before we can even think about them. But also, if we need something and we tell you, hey, this is really what we need to make this work, you make it
Mm.
work. And that is really important to us, and kind of why we wanted to do this in the first place, is because we knew you were going to make this work for North Carolina community colleges.
I love hearing that.
I love hearing that too, and it's so true. I mean, everything down to our perspective and our relationship that we have with the North Carolina Community College system is kind of that drive, and how many partners within that system that we already have and continuing to build on, but also some, I would argue that a lot of other systems out there would be like, yeah, we'd love to be able to do that and operate in that fashion, but they're not even capable because of, one reason or another, the foundation with which they're built on, legacy technology, when they were built. There's a lot of systems out there, while they're not bad, they're not agile. So the shifts, the quick jumps, how they approach their, the build out of their product, like it's just completely different than how we do. So it just allows us to be more agile and can do those things for our partners. So I'm glad that that message comes across, because it's very much the heart of what we're doing over here and what we're wanting the impact to be.
And we value partners who bring stuff to the table too. I think we've been lucky with our relationship with the North Carolina system because we've got so many innovative partners willing to try and to take and to give us feedback. So we appreciate that a lot. Know that, Carrie. I was going to ask. You mentioned things you've only brushed the surface of, or what's in the future, or what's coming. We've teased what may be coming on our end. Tell us what's coming on your end, or how you want to level up how you're using Element.
Like I mentioned, we have a strategic enrollment communication plan. And, we would want to send out reminders to students, like to make your advising appointment. And we do it like every week, or, whatever, if they had not yet been advised, right? But they all kind of sounded the same week to week. And it was like, get your stuff done, whatever. Well, now we can take those things and design them in Element, but we can go to Copilot and say, write 6 emails about this to this audience. And then it, man, pops up with the emails, right? And that's amazing, because, people talk a lot about AI and how I'm not going to need this CRM manager, right? Because of AI. That's not
Nope.
true. I need that CRM manager to be a prompt engineer who tells that thing what to
Yep.
write, and who then goes back and makes sure that that is the correct message. But, if you've ever written a lot of things in your life, as I do, sometimes you're stumped. Like, you can't think of the next thing, and you can't think of a different way to say it. But AI
Yep.
can. And then you go, oh, that's really good. I want to use that. Right. And you can take the parts and pieces. You still have to schedule it. You still have to make sure the right audience gets the message, but you saved yourself about 2
Yep.
hours.
You not only saved yourself 2 hours, you more efficiently used it. You talking about being a prompt engineer, that mindset, that strategy of asking the right question, of prompting AI to get you the right information, that is a skill set that, like you said, maybe can't be taught or you have to harness. I love hearing that. Not only will Copilot write those emails, it will create that workflow for you, which anyone will tell you, that's really the meat of the work where it comes
Yeah.
into, you know?
Well, and
Yes.
I've one of my favorite quotes that I've seen just in this age of AI so far has been for people that are scared that AI is going to take their job. And the quote is, AI isn't going to take your job, but people who know how to use AI, they will take your job.
Mhm.
And I think that's the biggest differentiator that we're seeing going into these next few years is who is going to bring it on, who is going to learn it and leverage it as, like, even to your point, right? It's meant to supplement and amplify what you're doing. The picture I get is like, those battery jumpers for your car, right? And your car won't start. You have it, you plug it in, you turn it, it turns on, you're doing great. Same thing with, you said, you have those creative blocks, and now you have this perfect, consistent, smart sounding board that you can always go to and will give you the things
Mhm.
if you know how to use it the right way. So yeah, I think you're thinking right along the lines of what is going to make
And it
Johnston successful, and you. Yeah, go ahead.
100%. And it frees up your time to think about what comes next. If you've got Copilot doing that work for you, hey, now you've got the free time in your brain to say, well, I want to ask it this question, or I've never thought about this population, or this is the challenge that we have. That's where I know I've benefited and used it, is like now it's opening up these creative windows to think about what you haven't had a chance to think about because you've been spending so much time drafting emails or building the workflow and trying to see so narrowly, how you've been doing things the same way for the 10 years that we've all been in higher ed. That's our biggest competitor.
The thing is that AI is here, it's not going
No.
anywhere. So you have to find ways to embrace it and to use it to your benefit. And we're also going to have to think about ways in higher education just across the board how we're going to evaluate students who are
It's a great
using
point.
AI, right? Because they're
Yes,
going
they
to
are.
use it. So
And
I mean, how are and people, using it for resumes or whatever. So maybe you have a video conversation with them to make sure that they an- can really answer the questions without a computer. But sure, we're all going to use it for different purposes, and we need to figure out how we're going
right.
to look at that
Mhm.
differently.
Hmm.
All right. One, I think this is amazing. I know I've got one question about, I mean, you're on the in your element pod, so we have to ask you, Carrie,
Got to.
when do you feel the most in your element in the work that you do at Johnston?
So, as I said, I'm an old journalist, a former journalist, and you can't really take that out of someone. It's just in your blood if you've ever done it. And so, for me, I'm really in my element when I hear a good story, and we hear them all the
Hmm.
time, student success stories, faculty stories. Just the way that this changes people's lives when they didn't think they had the opportunity before, that just gets to me. It gives me chills just talking about it. But every time I hear a good story, I mean, some one time when my president had just started, he said, I looked over and you were crying. And I was like, I know I can't
Right.
help it. I just do that. Just let me cry. But that's really when I love what I do. And we're taking those kinds of stories and putting them in a content bank so that we can share them
I love that.
with people through
So
Element
smart.
whenever we think that
Listen,
applies.
I love that. Number one, it just screams that's your why, right? That's why you do it, is to make an impact on those students and their lives. And that's probably what makes you so good at what you do. And I would love to hear those, and you send those over to us, because nothing makes us more happy and like feel that fulfillment than knowing the impact that we can just have being a part of that journey for those students and kind of what you're able to provide. So feel free to send those our way. Give us a little bit of tears to cry during the week, be a little therapeutic crying throughout the week. But, I always like to also really end these, and this is kind of my last question is, you've done such a good job of stewarding this tool so far, bringing in new people to the fold, training them the right way, not being afraid of what's coming and embracing it head on. But what advice would you give to someone that might be listening to this podcast right now that is like thinking of going with Element? What advice would you give them as they came on and maybe they're a new Element captain or something like that? What would you give them as advice?
I will preface this by saying that before Element, we had no CRM whatsoever. And that is a scary thing to say out loud in this day and age. But I think I would say do not be afraid. You can't mess it up. You can't possibly mess it up. And it can only, make things better. So just jump in and do it. And don't be afraid of that. I have anxiety about a lot of things. Like I just went on a chairlift up a mountain. I had bad anxiety about that. Not about jumping into Element 451 because it can be scary to kind of start something new, and change is always scary, right? But it's just all right there, and you should just do it.
Yeah, I love that. That's honestly the
Excellent.
biggest piece of advice I give whenever people ask, I don't know anything about this AI stuff. What do I do? Use it. Just use it. Just start. Do a couple of things here, there, every single day. Use it. See how you like it. See, learn every single day. And it kind of helps you dip your toe in the pool and ease into that change. So incredible advice. This has been
Love it.
awesome.
Yeah, Carrie, now you mentioned your CRM manager is going to engage. Are you going to engage? Will we see you there?
We actually signed up too many people for Engage because everybody wanted
Love
to
it.
go. So, artists, sorry about that, but we had to take some people off the list and they're waiting. But yes, we have a large group going, and it's most of my team as well as student services and
Awesome.
IT.
Nice.
So it's across several areas, and we're ready to. Last year when we went, we had just started, and so it was all kind of overwhelming and like, what do we do in this
Yeah, you
thing,
have a
right?
year under your
But
belt. It's
now that
great.
we're into it, we're just excited to learn more
Yeah.
about what we can do with it on the AI
Well, we
side.
will make sure to take good care of your team while they are there and load them up with all sorts of
Thank
knowledge and tips and tricks and goodies that they can bring back to you. But this has been so great.
Oh,
Oh,
I'll
you
be
Oh,
will?
there
I'll
Oh,
be
too.
there.
I'll
good.
be there.
Oh,
I'm
okay,
in the
good.
group.
Oh,
I'm in
good.
the
Listen,
group.
All right.
Listen, I was not going to put myself on the
listen.
wait list. No way. I want to go because plus the drinks
They
are
are.
fancy, and I
That
live in
they
I
are.
was
Florida.
wondering if she was going to bring up the drinks.
The
Listen,
edible glitter.
I, I'm totally on board with everything Daniela just said. All the tips, all the tricks, all the knowledge. But this is like the social event of the year, right? And so this is, yes, good content. You're going to learn a lot. You're going to network and meet a lot of great people. But the food, the fun, the
The
drinks,
ice
the
sculpture.
glitter, the
Yeah.
ice sculpture.
I mean,
Yeah.
we got it all. We got it all.
Yeah. So it's going to be a blast. I'm really looking forward to it. It's definitely the highlight of my year all the time. So yeah, we'll have a good time in June together. So
Thank you so much, Carrie. In Your Element is part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too.
our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional.
Our shows help higher ed marketers and enrollment professionals find their next big idea and feature a selection of the industry's best as your host. Learn from Mallory Wilsey, Artist Kadu,
Maya Demishkovich, and so many other of your favorite leaders in higher ed.
Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered, all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.